This is a $500 million crime, and it is being committed with a box cutter. A Rembrandt cut out of its frame like a poster. The men doing it are dressed as police officers. A guard let them in. Both watchmen are handcuffed to pipes in the basement. The alarm that calls the outside world is never pressed. For the next 81 minutes, the greatest private art collection in America belongs to two thieves. 36 years later, the frames still hang empty on the wall. Nobody was ever charged. Nothing was ever found. This is the true story of the Gardner heist, told by the only witness that never lied, the museum's own motion sensors. Boston, 1903. Isabella Stewart Gardner, collector, traveler, scandal of polite society, builds herself a Venetian palace and fills it with one of the great private collections on earth. Over the door she carved her motto, "C'est mon plaisir," it is my pleasure. She lived by it. She walked lions on a leash through Boston and scandalized the symphony. The city never knew what to do with her. A courtyard of flowers under glass, 3 floors of galleries arranged by her own hand. In the Dutch room, a Rembrandt seascape, the only one he ever painted, and a Vermeer. There are only 34 Vermeers in existence. She owned one. The Vermeer is a small, quiet miracle, 3 musicians caught between notes. She won it at auction herself, bidding in silence with a handkerchief signal. When she died, her will froze the museum in time. Everything stays exactly where she hung it. Nothing may be added, nothing may be removed. If anything changes, the whole collection is to be sold off. Remember that clause. It is the reason this story has no ending. By 1990, the palace is a museum with a masterpiece problem, billions on the walls, and a security budget from another century. 1 guard station, 1 panic button at the desk, motion sensors in the galleries, and a camera system that records onto tapes stored inside the same building. The night watch is 2 men, students, musicians, 20-something Bostonians earning rent money among the Rembrandts. And on the 17th of March, Boston throws the biggest party of its year. Every cop in the city is busy. Every siren means nothing unusual. If you wanted to dress as a policeman and knock on a door at 1 in the morning, this is the night. Midnight. The young musician walks his rounds through the dark galleries, past the Vermeer, past the empty courtyard. At some point before 1 a.m., the side door of the museum opens and closes, logged by the system, never explained to this day. By 1:20, both guards are back where the rules say they should be. One at the desk, beside the only alarm button that calls the outside world. At 1:24, the buzzer rings. On the monitor, 2 Boston police officers, caps, badges, mustaches. We're responding to a disturbance. Protocol says, call the station to verify. He doesn't. He buzzes the door. The 2 officers step inside the palace. One of them looks at the young guard, says he looks familiar, and asks him to step away from the desk. Then they have him call the second guard down from his rounds. Within 2 minutes, every human defense of the museum is standing in the same small lobby. The guard steps away. From the desk, from the button, it is the last moment anyone could have called for help. Then the taller one says the sentence this case is famous for. Gentlemen, this is a robbery. The guards are handcuffed, wrapped in duct tape, and left in the basement. 1 tied to a workbench, 1 to a pipe. They will stay there for 7 hours. At 1:35, the Gardner Museum belongs to 2 men in fake uniforms. What they do next is the strangest shopping list in the history of crime, and every step of it is being written down. The museum's motion sensors cannot stop anyone, but they record everything: room, direction, time. What follows is their testimony. 1:48, the Dutch room. Rembrandt's only seascape cut from its frame with a blade. The empty frame is smashed on the marble floor. Cutting a 400-year-old canvas destroys value by the million. Professionals steal paintings in their frames. These men worked like they had a list and no plan to ever sell at auction. The Vermeer, one of 34 in the world, leaves the wall it hung on for 87 years. 2 more Rembrandts, a landscape by Flink, methodical, fast, brutal to the art. And then the strangeness begins. The single most valuable painting in the building, Titian's Europa, hangs 1 floor up. They never touch it. 204, the Short Gallery. 5 sketches by Degas, worth a fraction of what surrounds them. Then they spend long minutes unscrewing a bronze eagle from the top of a Napoleonic flagpole. A trophy worth thousands, in a room worth millions. From a table, a bronze drinking vessel from Shang Dynasty China, 3,000 years old, one of the oldest things in the building. And here is the detail that keeps investigators awake. A Manet vanishes from the Blue Room, where the sensors all night recorded only 1 set of footsteps. The guards. Before leaving, they pull the security tapes and the data printout from the office. They knew exactly where both lived. The sensors log the side door twice, 2 trips to a car nobody ever saw. At 2:45, the door closes. 81 minutes, 13 works, $500 million. 13 objects left the building that night. Memorize them. The whole mystery lives in this list. The concert, Vermeer. Today the most valuable stolen painting on Earth. The storm on the Sea of Galilee. The only sea Rembrandt ever painted. A lady and gentleman in black. Rembrandt again. A Rembrandt self-portrait the size of a postage stamp, etched on copper. Landscape with an obelisk. By Flink, mistaken for a Rembrandt for 200 years. Chez Tortoni, Manet. The one from the room with no footsteps. 5 sketches by Degas, horses, dancers, moments. A 3,000-year-old Chinese Gu, and a golden eagle from the top of Napoleon's flag. Total value, $500 million. Total logic, none. On the way out, one of them tells the guards in the basement, "You'll hear from us in about a year." It is the last confirmed sentence anyone ever heard from the Gardner thieves. 8:15. The day crew finds the night guard still taped in the basement and the Dutch room floor covered in broken gold frames. By 9, the FBI owns the case. The thieves left no prints, no fibers that lead anywhere, no camera footage. They took it with them. Decades later, the duct tape and the handcuffs are retested for DNA with modern tools. The profiles lead nowhere. What they could not take is the sensor log. 81 minutes of timed footsteps, printed line by line. And the log points somewhere uncomfortable, the door that opened before the thieves rang. The Manet, missing from a room with only the guard's footsteps. Suspect number 1 is the man who buzzed them in. Rick Abath is interrogated for years. Polygraphs, grand juries, decades of the same questions. His answer never changes. He was a stoned kid on a boring shift who opened a door he shouldn't have. Nothing more. He is never charged. He dies in 2024, still telling the same story. And the paintings stay gone, because by then the case has moved into a much darker room. Boston's underworld. 1990s Boston is mob country, and $500 million in stolen art is currency. The suspect list reads like a crime novel. A gangster who talked about robbing the Gardner for years. His associates. A fence with a habit of hinting he could make paintings appear. One by one, the best suspects die, shot, jailed, or of old age, without a single canvas surfacing. Every theory has its believers. The mob stole it as prison insurance, art to trade for freedom. Or Boston's Irish underworld shipped it across the sea, arms for canvases. Or the whole night was designed from inside a prison cell by a rock and roll art thief with a genius IQ. 36 years on, every theory has one thing in common. no paintings. In 2013, the FBI makes an extraordinary announcement. We know who did it. 2 local criminals, both long dead. They name no one and produce nothing. 1997 had already produced the case's cruelest tease. A Boston reporter is driven to a warehouse at night and shown by flashlight a rolled canvas that looks exactly like the missing Rembrandt. The next morning's headline reads, "We've seen it." The go-between hands over paint chips as proof. One expert calls them genuine Rembrandt. Others disagree. There are negotiations, immunity talks, a convicted art thief flown in from federal prison to consult. It all collapses. No painting surfaces. By then it barely matters. The statute of limitations on the theft expired decades ago. The robbery can no longer be prosecuted, only whoever is holding the art. The museum's reward doubles to $10 million. No questions asked. Tips arrive from everywhere. A warehouse in Ireland, a sighting in Philadelphia, deathbed confessions. Every lead is chased. Every lead dies. Then, in 2015, the FBI releases something unsettling. Security footage from the night before the heist. At 12:49 in the morning, a car pulls up. An unknown man is buzzed in, through the same side door, by the same guard. He has never been identified. 36 years of files, and the investigation's only certainty is the one it started with. 81 minutes of footsteps. The paintings themselves have done something almost impossible for objects this famous. They have never appeared. Not once. Anywhere. Which brings us back to the room where we started. Isabella's will still rules the palace. Nothing added, nothing removed, nothing rearranged. The museum cannot fill the walls with something else. So the frames hang empty, exactly where she placed them. A crime scene the public walks through every day. Guards still watch the room. Now they guard the absence. 13 works, 36 years. The Vermeer alone would now be worth more than everything ever offered for its return. The side door is still there. The buzzer still works. The museum's message to whoever holds the art has not changed in 3 decades. We want the paintings, not the people. $10 million. No questions asked. Somewhere, a wall, a vault, an attic, a rolled canvas of a storm at sea is waiting for this story to end. The thieves needed 81 minutes. Boston has been waiting 36 years, and the museum keeps the frames on the wall because the will demands it, and because an empty frame is a promise. This is not over.